One time I was traveling and I ended up staying in a hotel. Okay, I know I'm just about done winding down because that little verbal slip up that felt like my energy is going away. So let's do this. Let's power through. One more story and then I think I'm done. Ended up staying in a hotel and I ended up having a really hard time, not a really hard time, I found it to be hard. I didn't feel comfortable in this place and I did not feel like the place was clean. It wasn't in good condition. I will not go into detail, but I will talk about something that I don't think is gross, but it is potentially dangerous. Everyone else was in and out of this bathroom and it was fine and they're using it and it's okay. And now I'm uncomfortable because I know everyone's going to know I'm not using that shower. I wouldn't go into it and I wouldn't touch it because I noticed what appeared to be something black growing in the corner of it. Now, I've noticed that I point these things out and people who, it doesn't matter, basically, it's interesting to me that that kind of thing doesn't seem to bother anyone else. And I have known some people who kind of act like, you know when sometimes something becomes a part of someone's identity, like cleanliness is a part of their identity. Oh, it's so clean, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool, right, that's just who you are, wonderful. But no one had a problem with that, and I had a problem with that. And we are talking about other neurodivergent and autistic individuals. So that's not like me missing like, oh, maybe they just think differently, maybe you have hypersensitivity to it. No, we're talking about another, it's another situation, autistic, and one particular person, autistic and very deeply connected with cleanliness as a part of their identity. So why am I the only person who notices something black growing in a strange shower and then doesn't want to get in there? And during that time frame, I kept hearing about people developing pretty serious health issues from stuff like that. I've heard of it. I don't want to say that it was a black mold situation, but it's not like I'm saying where it was. It was an establishment, but I didn't say where. I still don't want to say it was, but I didn't know that it wasn't either. And because the whole place made me feel gross, I didn't want to get in there. So now I am dealing with the sink and I know how to take care of myself. You know, you can do a sponge bath or something, but I kind of wanted to get out of there because I didn't feel comfortable with this situation. It was unknown and it happened to be one of those situations where everything was uncomfortable for me and not for anyone else. So all of a sudden it was harder for me to take care of myself in the way that I wanted to, because I can't fathom trying to get myself clean in a place I don't believe to be clean. I didn't want to do that. I felt better doing it the hard way and the slow way. And then I'm in the bathroom dealing with this kind of, you can hear me running the sink, knowing that people, especially that one person with that cleanliness identity, is paying attention and truthfully judging me, that they might say something. It was just so uncomfortable for me. And discomfort will do it too. Convenience, like the inconvenience of me not having access to what I personally needed to feel safe and clean, that affected the way that I took care of myself, and I had to come up with all these other things to do, and it took all this extra energy. And there's also the comfort discomfort thing, because I've had it across the board where it was that situation in the hotel where my level of discomfort was just, I really don't want people being able to hear me and bringing it up, and the fact that I won't get in the shower because that person would kind of be like, oh, well, you're not clean because you're not getting in the shower. I'm doing what I have to do, okay? I'm just doing it differently. But I just didn't want it to be a conversation. I've never liked that. I've never been comfortable with that. And it was made into an issue throughout my life. I was that autistic child who was processing everything. As soon as I was old enough where I was told, you can bathe yourself, I considered that to be a point of growth where I move forward and I never go back. So after living with childhood where people are like, if you don't do it properly, I'm going to put you in that shower and I'm going to wash you myself. That felt weird to me. And I'm not saying it was meant to be gross or abusive. I'm saying it felt very uncomfortable to me because now I've kind of reached that point where I'm aware, I'm thinking about things, I'm taking care of myself. And you know how some people are like, you're not too old for me to put you over my knee and spank you. That's another thing that I found really weird and humiliating. I won't get into, but I just found it really uncomfortable and gross the way other people will address your hygiene. And it's not like I was ever perfect about this, but I didn't like the way people came at me about it, and it felt disgusting and it felt uncomfortable. And that's one of the reasons why I don't want to do a graphic hygiene video. I don't think that's my bailiwick. If someone, like, if it were a thing where I thought that it was necessary for me to address that, I think I could find a way to do it that's highly explanatory but not over the top. And we just know this is a really personal video where I am going into detail, but I'm not necessarily going to just decide to make that video. Who knows? Maybe one day it'll come up, people will request it, and I'm like, okay, I tell the truth about things. I'll go to these places. I'll find a way to do it. But my experience in life has been that I just don't really want to go into the detail. I don't want to share these experiences. My desire is that I can take care of myself, my body, my well-being in private. For me, I don't know that I'm a person where I'm shooting for living alone. I don't really want to, but I think about how if I did live alone, I would be able to engage in every aspect of my life in total privacy. And the concept of having complete hygienic privacy is absolutely amazing to me, that no one's paying attention, no one's going to ask me questions. Sometimes when you're living with people and you're related to them and they think that that's appropriate for some reason, they'll just bring things up that seem personal to you. Once again, I won't go into detail, but they think they're noticing something and now it becomes a conversation. I don't like that. That makes me very uncomfortable. And so I don't want it. And so that's another thing that really needs to be mentioned, because there are different levels of comfort, right? And it goes, like I was saying earlier, I started it and I didn't finish it, but let me complete it. There are different levels of comfort where it's like that situation in the hotel. I just would feel more comfortable if I had been elsewhere, if no one could hear my habits and know that I'm not doing shower things, but I'm doing sink things. It's too much information, too many details. I don't want them thinking about it. I don't want them bringing it up. And I don't want it to become even more uncomfortable to me because someone's now bringing it up, asking questions, doing all these things. And yep, battery died. But what I'm saying is the discomfort can range from what I just said to that unsafe childhood that I had, where at any given time was either very little or, little and young, but also at some point I was still little. And little just because I'm female and I'm a reasonably tiny one. So, in the average range of tiny, I am aware that sizes vary and that's all good with me. I'm just saying in the average range, I'm a reasonably tiny one. I was thinking of this from safety concerns, and stuff was going on and I didn't feel safe, and I was wondering what else was going to go on, and that level of discomfort had a huge effect on me. It was almost like the depression level one, because then I would want to do things. With the depression thing, it was hard to even start or try. But with the safety thing, it was just a serious head game. I knew I wasn't safe. I didn't know when I was, or, it varied. Wondering how safe or unsafe I might be. Feeling uncomfortable taking care of myself, because as a female, things like being fully clothed and being fully clothed feels safer. In the same situation, with all else being the same, being fully clothed feels safer. And so that was a level of discomfort that just took it to another range, and I've experienced that. That made me actively not want to do these things. And I was always trying to figure out how to kind of, frankly, how to avoid it. And I'm that person where I don't necessarily do, like some people, they go to the gym and they're doing, not even necessarily, you don't have to go to the gym. That's like, for me, I don't even need that or think about it. It's not necessary in my life, but for some people, it's their lifestyle. They're getting out, whatever they're doing. Maybe they're running. They're really getting to a point where the first thing you want to do when you're done is instantly perform personal hygiene. And I never really did, like, I move, but I like to move and be cool. I like my temperature to remain cool, and I like my body to remain dry and fresh. So I'm not necessarily prompted to the point where I might have to do things multiple times a day because of my activities, you know. I was never, during that time frame, that didn't apply. I wasn't going out and, you know, getting muddy, running around with people. Those things didn't apply. So I would do my best to make sure I could kind of take care of myself in the shadows. If there was any moment when the unsafe element wasn't there, the individual wasn't there, that is when I felt better taking care of myself. But then you're still, you know, if you've been in a situation like that, you're like, oh, well, they're gone now, but they could come back, right? But I would try to do what I could. I worked it around the best that I could. But that made me uncomfortable in a way that was just so apex predator glaring at me from the shadows style unsafe, that things like hygiene that I desired and that I enjoy and that I crave weren't so appealing anymore. And once again, that's another situation where it's possible that when we're not able to take care of ourselves in that way, we might not be okay. Because for that whole time frame, when I was feeling that way at all times, I wasn't okay. And at any time in my life when that's been the situation, I've never been okay. And it wasn't a situation that was like, oh, random person came by for a visit. I've been in that situation too, but it wasn't, you know, the people around you put you into more unsafe situations, right? For some of us, we've been in that situation where sometimes the people around put us into more unsafe situations. But this wasn't a thing where you're just waiting for that one person to go. It was just life. And I heard somebody today, I was listening to somebody speaking, and they said something about being tired and just being tired because of everyday life. And I thought, wow, that actually is it. I always thought of it as just living in hell, you know. I thought of it as living in hell. But living in hell can be everyday life. And if you're in a place where you feel like you're living in hell every day of your life, things like eating, hydrating, taking care of your skin, the details, cutesy stuff like doing a manicure, which for me is not like I want to go all out. It's just basic nail care, keeping them the proper length, you know, getting rid of jagged edges, all that stuff. It just goes by the wayside. And I've had those times in my life where I have wanted and craved. That must look crazy. My eyelid is itching and I'm just like, hey, let me just do the weirdest thing and stare at the camera. So if that's freaky, pardon me, that's not what I was going for. What I'm saying is all this stuff went by the wayside because there was just something bigger in my day. And so there were times when I wasn't okay because my life was so horrible that I didn't have any joy left. All the joy was sapped away, and it becomes what they call a depression. The worst kinds of depression. And in some of those times, before I hit that point, I still was just drained from all the energy that it takes when you're drained from everyday life. Because every day of your life, you're living in hell. You're living in your own very specifically formed, twistedly acute, poetically insane hell. So I guess it's good for me to close on that point, because ultimately everything I'm doing and talking about is in the hopes that we will be okay. And I've noticed that a lot of us as autists and ADHDers, it seems like, well, that's the same thing in this context because I'm just talking, I'm the ADHDer, but having the autistic experience. So I've noticed a lot of us as autists, we're so accustomed to however we live through life. We get a lot of stuff done where someone like me, the ADHDer, might have the executive functioning complexities. Somebody who's not also ADHD might have a grand lack of executive functioning complexities, and you might just be grinding and running and doing. And I find that I have that place where I run out of energy and sometimes I just stop and there's nothing left. But I also have witnessed the autists who don't have a lick of ADHD. They're not saying it themselves. They know it's not the case, or you're watching them and you're like, yeah, 100%. Everything you say about me shows me that you're not having this experience. And I've noticed the difference. And sometimes, even when I'm in that state in my brain where I have just enough energy or the motivation to do it, I grind nonstop. That autistic brain, man, we can just grind nonstop. That flow state thing that can get to a point where you can't come out of flow state, or where you won't and you don't come out because you're still trying to accomplish something. And I've done that as well. When I can do that, sometimes that's what I do. And you get into this place where I've noticed that sometimes we don't process how hard our lives are because we're so accustomed to dealing with anything and still doing everything to whatever the degree we're capable of, whatever that means on a Monday, Tuesday. I forgot what the next day was. I was about to say Thursday. So cool. I'm clearly getting sleepy. Although my mind will just do that with words sometimes, but I really do think, I'm not kidding this time, I do think it's actually because I'm sleepy. So sometimes it's just on any given day, we're not realizing the amount of weight and heaviness on us individually. We don't necessarily get how exhausting what we are dealing with is, because we know no matter how exhausting it is, we're going to keep going anyway. And I'm here to tell you, even if you're capable of constantly going, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going because you're okay. So check yourself. I hope there's always something good and positive and safe we can do when we check ourselves. If we realize that we're not okay, if you check yourself and see what you're doing and see how it feels. Maybe you're keeping up with your hygiene fastidiously, but you're just tired all the time. Maybe it's just that it feels different. Maybe it doesn't feel as relaxing as you want. It's just that afterward you feel healthier once you do it, but maybe it's not relaxing to do. I just want us to not just survive, but thrive. And I know that that's a big statement, but that's my heart's desire. And sometimes it happens in each little moment, and sometimes it's easier to thrive if you check yourself, or if you have loved ones who are neurodivergent, check them. Maybe there's something we can do for ourselves or for each other that helps us to have one tiny moment where we're not just in this hapless, endless survival mode, this abject survival mode, and we can have one moment where we rest more, or where we help each other, or where we help ourselves. Sometimes we need 5 minutes in sensory I'm saying 5 minutes. I've done 1 minute. I've done a few seconds where I just close my eyes and breathe, and it helps. Whatever you can get, because you can't always make the huge changes, and I'm aware of that. I want us to be okay. And it disturbs me to know how many of us are just not okay and how bad it is. And I know personally what all of that's like. So that's why I'm saying it. Sometimes something like personal hygiene, with all other things taken into account, is really just a sign that we're not okay. So then maybe if you can notice that, you can do something about it. And so now I'm going to step away before I repeat myself endlessly. I hope this reached who it needs to reach, that you got something out of it. And again, thank you for being. If you like the video, like, subscribe, ring the bell, do all the things. Thank you if you do so, and thank you if you watch. And that's about it. Bye now.